the breath of Linh Nhi, in the bone-chilling night. My name is Minh Khang, 34 years old, a freelance photographer specializing in capturing rare natural moments in Vietnam. I'm not the superstitious type. To me, the world is only what you can see and hear, and everything can be explained by science. I've laughed off ghost stories from friends, calling them products of overactive imaginations. But after my trip to the Ha Giang stone plateau in the winter of 2025, I'm not so sure anymore. It all started as a normal photo hunting expedition, but it slowly turned into a nightmare that made me question my own reality. That year, a record-breaking cold wave hit northern Vietnam, with temperatures in the Dong Van Stone Plateau dropping below -5 degrees Celsius. It wasn't the heavy snowfalls like in Japan or Europe, but thick hoarfrost covering the terraced fields, turning them into shimmering ice steps under the weak sunlight. Winds howled through the jagged cat ear rocks, sounding like the wails of hidden monsters in the fog. I heard about it from a friend at the Ha Giang tourism department. "Kang, come up right away. The frost is rare. The terraced fields look like real snow." I got excited, packed my gear, a Canon EOS R5 camera with telephoto lens, a drone for aerial shots, a waterproof backpack with spare batteries, Gore-Tex thermal clothing, and an off-road motorcycle for navigating the mountain passes. I set off from Hanoi on a chilly morning in late December. The road to Ha Giang was familiar, but this time it felt different. The higher I climbed, the heavier the air became. Passing Ma Pi Leng Pass, the fog was so thick I had to slow down to 20 kilometers per hour. Giant boulders on both sides of the road loomed like massive black shadows, and the relentless wind chilled me to the bone. I stopped at Quan Ba to snap some photos of the frost-covered Heaven Gate, then continued to Dong Van. The plan was to stay in Lao Xa village for a few days, but I got greedy, wanting more unique angles. A local pointed me to a small path leading to the upper village, a remote hamlet nestled in a stone valley, unknown to most tourists. That was my first mistake. Darkness fell faster than I expected. The fog swallowed everything, my headlight only piercing a few meters ahead. The pass road was terrible, riddled with sharp rocks, and then the accident happened. A minor landslide from recent rains caused my rear wheel to skid, and I tumbled off the side. My knee throbbed in pain, blood seeping from scrapes, but luckily no broken bones. The bike was wrecked, engine dead. The temperature must have been below 4 degrees Celsius by then. Winds slashed like knives. I tried calling for help, but there was no signal. I was shivering uncontrollably, my breath turning into thick white clouds, and I thought, I'm going to die here from the cold. I started walking back to the main road, but the fog disoriented me. My feet went numb, hands stiff, mind foggy. I'd been trudging for over an hour, exhausted to the point of collapsing on a rock, hugging my backpack for shelter. Cold. So cold it felt like my blood was freezing. That's when I saw a faint flicker of firelight in the mist. A silhouette appeared, hazy like a mirage. It was a young girl, about 20 years old, dressed in a traditional Hmong white linen skirt embroidered with silver patterns that glimmered faintly. Her long black hair cascaded down her back, her skin pale white as if dusted with hoarfrost. She stood about 10 meters away, silent, just gently waving her hand to follow her. Her eyes were sad, but there was something strangely warm about her amid the cutting cold. I had no choice. I staggered after her, through winding stone paths I swear weren't on any map. The wind howled in my ears, but she moved lightly, unaffected. Finally, we reached an old wooden house tucked in a small valley. The roof was tiled with weathered yin-yang tiles, moss-covered, the walls dark wood polished by time and dampness. Inside, a fire burned in the hearth, casting a dim golden light on the patchy walls. The girl pointed to a low wooden stool, her voice soft as a breeze. "You, sit. The fire is burning." I dropped my backpack and sat near the hearth. Strangely, though the flames roared, licking at dry logs, I felt no warmth. The cold still seeped deep into my bones, as if the fire was an illusion. I glanced at the girl, Linh Nhi, as she introduced herself later. Her breath was odd. Every exhale produced a thick white plume, even inside the sealed house. And under the flickering firelight, I noticed she cast no shadow. My own shadow danced on the wall with the flames, but hers was absent. I rubbed my eyes, convincing myself it was fatigue and hypothermia causing hallucinations. I asked her questions. "Do you live here alone? Where's the nearest village?" She only nodded or shook her head, her silence making the air stifling. She sat across from me, hands on her lap, her sad eyes fixed on the fire. I tried to break the quiet, Your name is Linh Nhi? Your house is beautiful, so rustic. I'm a photographer, here to capture the winter scenes. She gave a faint smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. Beautiful, but cold, she whispered. The house had a strange smell, damp earth, wood smoke, and something metallic like frozen meat. I looked around, no modern appliances, just chipped bowls, an old wooden bed in the corner. No other people. I asked about her family, but she shook her head. Alone? For a long time. Exhausted, I asked to sleep. Linh Nhi led me to a small adjacent room, spreading an old, heavy quilt damp with moisture. Before I lay down, she whispered something that sent a shiver down my spine. Tonight, it's very cold. Don't go outside. Stay with me. Her voice echoed in my head like wind through rock crevices. I drifted into sleep, but it was fitful, filled with nightmares. I dreamed of walking through hoarfrost, winds howling around me, and Linh Nhi standing afar, waving me over. But as I approached, her face distorted, skin cracking like breaking ice, and she murmured, "You promised to stay, right?" The next morning, I woke to bone-deep cold. Opening my eyes, panic hit. I was lying in an empty stone field. No wooden house, no hearth, no Linh Nhi. Just hoarfrost blanketing the ground, jagged cat-ear rocks like monster teeth, and my backpack beside me. No footprints around, as if I'd slept there all along. I checked my watch. 8 a.m. Trembling, I stood and oriented myself. It took nearly 4 hours wandering in the mist to find my way back to the main village, Lao Xa. Back there, I recounted the story to a group of locals warming by a roadside fire. They stared at me with pity and fear. An elderly Ha Giang man, Tawa Sung, about 80, pulled me into his home and poured me a steaming cup of corn wine. He puffed on his tobacco pipe and spoke in a low voice. "Young man, you met Linh Nhi, didn't you? 20 years ago, there was a girl named Linh Nhi, the eldest daughter of this village. She was beautiful, skilled at embroidery, but she fell in love with a kin man from the lowlands who came up for work in the district. He promised to return and take her to Hanoi for marriage, to build a new life. But that winter was brutally cold, with constant landslides on the passes. He couldn't come, or maybe he didn't want to. Linh Nhi waited for him 3 days and 3 nights in the freezing cold, right where you described, that stone valley. She froze to death, her body stiff as ice. Since then, men traveling alone in the winter often encounter her. They disappear for days, then their bodies are found curled up as if asleep, skin frozen solid, no wounds. She's not killing anyone. She just wants someone to stay with her in that cold. The cold of waiting, of broken promises. I forced a laugh, telling the old man, "Sir, I don't believe in ghosts. I must have passed out from the cold and dreamed it." But he shook his head. "Believe what you want. But if it was a dream, why does your breath still fog in a warm house? And why is your skin so pale?" I stayed in the village another week, partly to fix my bike, partly to prove myself right. I kept shooting. Terraced fields glittering with hoarfrost under the sun, ancient houses with curved tile roofs, Hmong children playing in the wind. But every night, I dreamed of Linh Nhi. At first, just a hazy figure by the fire, whispering, "Can you stay? It's so cold." I'd wake in a cold sweat, even in a sealed room. In the mornings, I'd check my photos on the camera. Initially, I thought it was a glitch, small white smudges in the corners. I deleted them, reshot. But they grew clearer. A figure in a white linen skirt, standing right behind me in most shots, even though I was sure I was alone when taking them. In one of the terraced fields, she stood on the highest step, looking down. In an old house photo, she peeked from a window. And the breath, in a selfie, a thin white plume behind me. The days grew colder. Temperatures dropped to -6°C, hoarfrost so thick it mimicked fog even in daylight. And Linh Nhi became more vivid. I started seeing her while awake. First, from the guest house window, overlooking the valley. She stood 100 meters away in the mist, her white skirt fluttering in the wind, breath pluming white. I blinked and she vanished. Next, during a village walk, she sat on a rock, eyes waiting. I tried running to her, but she dissolved into the fog. I asked more villagers. An old woman said, "Linh Nhi isn't evil, she's just lonely. Her lover abandoned her. Her family died in that same cold wave. She waited until death. Now she seeks men like him, lowlanders who come up, make promises, and leave." A young local warned, "You should head down the mountain. Don't stay long. Those who meet her often don't want to leave anymore. They grow cold, cold from the heart." I began doubting myself. I'm a modern guy, living in Saigon, used to neon lights and air-conditioned cafes. I came here to touristify highland culture, snapping pics for Instagram likes, without understanding the soul of this land. The cold wasn't just temperature, it was a metaphor for loneliness, forgotten vows, love dying in waiting. Linh Nhi wasn't a demon. She symbolized women left behind, waiting endlessly between tradition and modernity. The biggest twist came on the last night. Lying in the guest house, fire blazing warmly, but I still felt cold. I dreamed of Linh Nhi clearer than ever. She sat by my bed, touching my hand, icy cold. "You look just like him," she said. "Promised to stay, but left. I've waited 20 years. Stay with me? Just a little. So I'm not cold anymore." I woke, but the touch lingered. And on my skin, a white hoarfrost mark, like a handprint. Now, as I write this in Saigon, my hands still tremble from the cold. Outside is tropical sun, but I feel that chill following me. Whenever it gets cool, I see the white figure in old photos, hear the whisper, "Minh Khang? Stay, won't you?" I don't know if it was real or hallucinations from frost and isolation. But one thing I know, that cold never leaves. It's in my bones. Maybe one day, I'll return to Ha Giang, to take photos or to stay. And to this day, on cold nights, I wonder, is Linh Nhi waiting for me out there in the hoarfrost? Or was it all the dream of a skeptical photographer?